What's up, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite New York Jets subscription podcast, Badlands. I'm your host, Joe Caporoso, fresh off a crisp 67 minutes on YouTube Live, a more standard reaction pod. The New York Jets have selected tackle Armand Membou with their first round pick. Not a shocker. You know, some people who were disappointed it's not Warren, who's not even going to be the first tight end taken, as Loveland went before him. I think a pick that, and this is consistent with everything we said before the draft, that Jet fans should be happy about, particularly when you look at how young and talented this offensive line is. I'm getting some younger versions of 2009 vibes. Meegs, I'm going to start with you, then Dan, then Paul. Elevator pitch, initial reaction.
So I think that they did what I wanted them to do, and I'm very excited about that. The Jets don't always listen to us, so I'm happy they didn't go rogue. The late defensive player chatter was all for naught. Seems that Membou was the guy they locked in on. I got a little nervous this week that I didn't think he was going to be there with the Jaguars, thinking they're going to take an offensive player. It turns out they actually got up to get Travis Hunter. The Browns, they felt might go on a tackle run, but they took Mason Graham. Armand Membou, you don't really have to project him at left tackle. He's a right tackle. The Jets need a right tackle. He's going to have a seamless fit in this offense. He's a big tackle, 330 pounds, strong anchor. A lot of the edge rushers that you're going to see drafted tonight, besides Abdul Carter, played in the SEC. Turn on the Missouri tape. None of them get close to this guy. He's a guy who's gotten better. He's a guy who's ascended through this process. He crushed the combine, and I don't think people are going to make this comparison, but I know the first pick of the last regime was Mekhi Becton. They saw this big holding offensive tackle who crushed the combine, but didn't have the work ethic, had the weight issues. Those, as far as we know, don't exist with Armand Membou. He's, I think, one of the 10 best players in this draft, and he plays a premium position. So the Jets kept it simple, and I appreciated them for it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that folks should really keep in mind, especially with this pick and the completion of like this young, talented offensive line, is not just giving Justin Fields more time, which is great. It's a great positive to have for a young quarterback. It's not have him getting battered around back there, but I think with what Tanner Engstrom is likely to bring in, right? If he's as big a contributor to that Lions offense as Aaron Glenn said he was, a lot of the looks that they're going to try to give Justin Fields are going to be, very quick and very simple. And I think the best way to set that up is by selling the hell out of the run, right? And so when you have a really tough and physical offensive line that teams have to respect, they have to keep enough guys in the box to account for, right? Then it really opens up what you can do for with your quarterback. So I do think that, yes, the obvious benefit is for the quarterback, but I think it's more than what we think initially. It's just like, oh, pass protection, and it's keeping your offense balanced, and it's keeping your defenses honest because of the reads that you set up. So it could be pretty interesting to see what they can do with their offense this
year. Yeah, so I'm not going to be able to out talk offensive line ball with Meegs and Dan here, so I'm not going to try. I'll add a couple things that weren't mentioned, right? He's the son of immigrant parents from Cameroon, which is like, there's something quantifiable or unquantifiable rather there that you like, right? Like, he's kind of a first generation working hard. He is a 2.5-year starter at Missouri. When you look at some of the numbers that Missouri's offense put up with him during his time on the line, some of it is like mind bending, right? They got over 500 yards a bunch of times. They got over 200 yards rushing a bunch of times. They get let up fewer than one sack a whole handful of times. This guy got second team all SEC as an offensive tackle, right? Like, this dude is for real. And if you look at some of what people are saying his weaknesses are in his game, one of them is height, right? Which, like, I don't know if I can really bring myself to care about that. He's 6'3", over 300 pounds. Like, I don't think we need to worry about his size. Some of it is aggression based. It's like he'll jump off the line too quick, and maybe he gets ahead of himself sometimes. And some of it is hands based, right? And so really what we're talking about is technique refinement here. And it's not something that's going to super worry you. I think what we got is a player very similar to Olu, who's on the other side now, right? And so we have not only a good piece that we can plug in immediately, but a piece that we think will probably fit in with the rest of the line that we have in place right now, with the aggression and the run first mentality, and the ability to not give up sacks, right? So I think from a team building perspective, it's a great puzzle piece to slam into everything. And just from a kid perspective, it's hard to ask for more than we're going to get from Armand Membou. So I'm all in.
Dan, you'll be annoyed to know the Dolphins took Kenneth Grant with their pick, and now the Colts sprinted their pick in. I'm assuming it's going to be Warren, but we'll see.
It is Tyler Warren.
Yeah. So
it is Tyler Warren.
Warren goes at 14. Yeah, I think a pretty big surprise Loveland went before him, but conversation for a different day. For Membou, look, I think the step back of Membou, Olu, Tittman, AVT, Simpson, blocking for Justin Fields, Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, and Isaiah Davis, there's a lot you can do there, and a very unique physical kind of offense you can build. And I think, to Dan's point earlier, beyond the run game, just setting up play action when you can utilize Garrett Wilson, who's currently the only pass catcher on the roster, hopefully not for long, will also be an intriguing part of their offense. But this is going to be an unquestionably physical team. And the athleticism of their tackles and the youth of their tackles, not a lot of teams would trade for that situation. And that doesn't even factor in how young and athletic their interior offensive line is. So there's a base in the trenches here where you have that offensive line. You have Quinnen Williams on the other side of the ball. Of course, you're going to do some work throughout this draft on putting more talent around him. But from a value perspective, and why I find it hard as any Jet fan to be upset about this or surprised about it, this was the second most commonly mocked pick to the Jets. There was a lot of late smoke about defensive players and Banks, which was all it was, late smoke. Don't believe the stuff that you hear in the final few days before the draft, which usually holds. Overall, you're looking at the 9th overall player on the draft guide's big board. So right in the zone of where you would take him at 7. He's one spot behind Will Campbell, who the Jets were not going to take because they already have that AVT-like player. And I would make a case that, and just trolling a touch on Twitter, that the Jets got the offensive lineman who projects better to the NFL and the Patriots, despite picking 3 spots behind them. So you feel good about that. This wasn't some type of reach. And going into the draft, the Jets didn't have a starting right tackle. We've said consistently that trying to sell Chugs as a starting right tackle was Wayne Hunter 2.0. And that would have been a disaster for this offensive line. And it would have had a trickle-down effect to the rest of the offense. We don't have to talk about that now. We don't have to worry about offensive line for a bit. Now the ball goes to, how's the rest of this first round going to break? And how can the Jets take advantage of what should be a reasonable collection of pass catchers on day 2? More so at the receiver position than the tight end position. I do wonder if tight end doesn't match up for them. Are we back in the veteran conversation where, is it Mayer? Is it Goddard? Is it Kyle Pitts? Are they going to go look at that? Or is it Mark Andrews? If they get through this draft and they don't draft a tight end until late day 3 because you can't credibly start Stone Smart or Jeremy Ruckert, because I still feel like receiver is more likely to be a sweet spot for them in round 2, which we can talk about more tomorrow. But with Membou, the upside, the athleticism, the physicality, and this isn't a low floor player. This is not the Mekhi Becton, Tristan Wirfs situation in any way whatsoever. There is not that kind of bottom with him where there is still a reasonably high floor here, which is probably just like a league average right tackle, but with the ceiling to be one of the best right tackles in the NFL over time. And he's going to be the offensive lineman. They're going to be in a system here where they're just going to get the opportunity to beat the hell out of people. You effectively have 4 running backs that are massively sized between Fields and the 3 running backs they currently have. So it's going to be this isn't new news. It's going to be a very 2009 offense, and they got to get creative with that, but they are built to beat teams up front. Not a lot of defensive lines are going to be able to deal with these guys overall. I guess final thoughts here on the reaction. Where we'll go Meegs, Dan, Paul. Looking at where we're at right now, we're recording this at, pick 15, 16. I think we could take some educated guesses about how the rest of the draft in the first round is going to go. Where is your head at now on day 2? Jets going 42 and 73. You have the right tackle. I don't know if they draft an offensive lineman the rest of this class. I think they feel probably good about their depth at the moment. Where's your head at now for Friday night?
I mean, pass catcher is where it immediately goes. I think they have to do it. I I think my take earlier in the process was I could see them trading out of 42 and try to get more picks. I don't think you can do that. I think we got to see how many go tonight because the Jets are picking at 42. It's 10 picks that are going to go like in front of them. You know, if Matthew Golden, if only one of Matthew Golden or Ibuka go tonight, and then you're sitting there on the stop what they do, and like one of them, Golden's there, Luther Burton's there, both Iowa State guys are there. Like, you feel like there's a good chance that one of them is going to get to 42, which I think anyone, if you were giving them, the option on Wednesday night, if you can get Membou and one of Betch, Higgins, Noel, or Burton, I think anyone would take that. So I think that's where you're kind of hoping that it plays out that way. But I just feel better about this sleep than I would have if they took Warren or if they took McMillan and doing the offensive tackle game because I think in the next 10, 15 picks, Josh Simmons is going to go. Connerly's going to go. Ursery's going to probably be gone before 42, and then we'll see what happens with Ozzie in that regard. It's just I felt better about the depth of receiver in this class, the depth of pass catcher in this class, than I did about tackle. And when 3 tackles went in the top 9 picks, I just feel like the Jets played the board correctly.
Yeah, I think you go get your wide receiver, you go get your tight end if that turns out to be what fits better. But I will say, depending on how things shake out today, of course, it does seem like it's trending towards a lot of players that we've tried to connect with the Jets in the second round being available. There's a lot of good players that are dropping. That Kenneth Grant pick, as much as I hate the fact that he's on Miami, is a very dumb pick. It makes no sense. It's very high. And a lot of teams are making similar decisions where they're drafting guys that, are just not mid first round quality. And the more that they push down good quality players, the more likely the Jets are probably going to get the chance to, get a pass catcher that they want. So, yeah, the Jack Betch dream is alive, I think, for for those who follow. I think tomorrow you try to get your pass catcher. I do like that with not going Warren now, you have a little bit more flexibility. And you're less like, okay, this pick is absolutely going to be X position or absolutely going to be Y position. Because with the way that interior defensive line is going to shake out on day 3 and late day 2, they have a lot of flexibility now.
Yeah, I'd so echo everything these guys said. First of all, as far as pass catcher goes, I'd like to see keep track of where Terrence Ferguson is falling to, keep track of where Mitchell Evans is at. Those are 2 players that are going to go in different parts of the draft, but those are 2 that I'd keep my eye on as far as tight end goes moving forward. As far as wide receiver, I agree with Meegs and Dan. If Emeka is floating around at the end of the first round, I have a hard time not at least making a couple calls and seeing what's up there. If you do just want to stay chalk, maybe you're looking at Besh or Harris in the 3rd round. I don't know. If you go further down than that, maybe we're talking about Jalen Royals. So we'll keep an eye on that one. I do want to use the remainder of my time. Higgins is another one that I failed to mention there, who maybe you just stay where you are in the 2nd round and you take Jaden Higgins and you're okay with that. But I do want to use the remainder of my time because I don't think any of us have brought up the fact that our old friend Bobby Saleh took Mykel Williams. So let's all...
That would have been the pick if he was still here.
Let's all share a collective laugh at that. Because that's the one guy we all identified that none of us wanted, and our former coach took him. So the past few days have very much been about exercising the demons of last year, between hearing that Glenn told Rodgers to F off, basically, and now Bobby Saleh taking Mykel Williams. I feel pretty good about those 2 guys not being a part of what we're doing anymore. So end the night on a good note.
I did have to have a chuckle with that pick because, look, for all of the late defensive panic and all the stressing, this draft, I will remember this year of draft coverage as mostly being a Membou Warren debate. That was the predominant thing. And I think it wasn't like overly heated or negative debate outside of 1 or 2 days in the Discord where I just find it hard to be upset about either of these guys. And it's just fun to look at the Jets offensive line right now and look at that depth chart on paper. It's uniquely talented, young, and physical, and they just haven't had that for a long time. And when you're starting from there, it does elevate the floor of your offense and of your team. And I think boring is good. And Connor said this the last podcast we recorded. The Jets didn't try to be the smartest guy in the room. They didn't try to do too much. They just took the best lineman who was available to them when they badly needed an offensive lineman. And I'm glad they prioritized offense over defense. And the full picture of this draft will really be told when we see what they do in round 2 and round 3. Jalen Walker, our other friend, just went to the Falcons with peak 15. Keep letting those receivers fall. Keep letting those tight ends fall.
Ulbrich taking Jalon Walker.
It's oh my God. They have a type. No doubt. Part of me, we also have to mention the Jets can very well just take our guy Tyleek and just say we're going all trenches early and we don't care about the skill positions right now. We'll figure that out on day 3. I don't think anyone will complain about it too much.
Well, we were all saying at the beginning of free agency, right? It was, what was the catchphrase we were all using? Like, it's time to get fat or whatever we were saying,
fat,
right?
Fat. Yeah.
Maybe that's what the draft is about.
Yes.
And I'm for it.
I wouldn't, it's not, there would be nothing shocking about them doing that. And I cannot wait actually to hear what Aaron Glenn has to say about Membou tonight. I just think from a mentality perspective, there will be a melding of the minds there. I think Schefter tweeted they had like a 45-minute FaceTime this week or something that maybe pushed it over the edge. But from everything we've seen about how Membou carries himself and talks about football, not shocking that Aaron Glenn fell in love with him and was like, that's going to be my right tackle. Not the dude who quit halfway through week 1 last year. He could be a backup, and we're actually going to take this guy to start. So night 1 reaction. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Meegs. We're almost at the end of the Badlands April gauntlet of a live show, a draft guide, and draft coverage. We could all collapse and take a break for a few days. Not really, though, because we got other stuff going on. But we'll be back tomorrow with more pre-day 2 coverage, during night 2 coverage, and post-night 2 coverage. And then we'll be into day 3, which is always a fun little free-for-all. So thank you guys for listening. We hope you are happy with the pick. We are happy with the pick. BadlandsDOJ.com for our brand new Membou Wrecking Ball shirt. Also still have our other gear there. Thank you again. We will talk to you soon.